The nightmare began when Lydia Fairchild was told the children she had given birth to could not possibly be her own.
I know I carry these kids. I know I gave birth to these kids. To feel like I was just the only one in the whole world trying to fight for my kids, and nobody in the world was listening to me.
Did I think the kids would be taken away at one point in time? I knew they would be taken away.
Every day I felt like that was going to be the last day I see them.
Lydia's fight to prove she was the mother of her children revealed a secret hidden deep in her body, a twin she never knew.
Instead of being twins or Siamese, she was one individual.
I feel more scared more than anything, like, what is this? And why me?
With no steady work and unable to support herself and the children, she applied for welfare benefits. The state prosecutor's office required DNA tests from Jamie to prove he was the father. And as a matter of course, Lydia was also DNA tested. In December 2002, she received a phone call from the prosecutor's office.
He goes, well, you really need to come up to the office. So that's when we went up to the office, and I went in the back room. Just him and that lady sat there, just stared at me. And I was like, so what'd we get? He goes, well, he's 99% the father. And I'm like, okay, good. Okay, we know he's the father. And they go, well, there's a problem. And they go, there's no way you're the mother.
Lydia was stunned. She couldn't believe the DNA results said she was not the mother.
At first, I kind of laughed. I was like, what are you talking about? And they were serious. I can just see the seriousness in their faces. I mean, they're just staring me down, like totally checking me out. And then they just started drilling about, are you Lydia Fairchild? Who are you really? Where'd you get these kids from? Did your sister have these children and you're taking them and doing welfare fraud? And they just went back and forth, just drilling me.
Lydia's results were extremely unusual. A normal DNA test proving a mother-child link would show a 50% match between their DNA patterns. Yet Lydia's test showed no match at all between her DNA and that of her children. Based on these results, the chances of Lydia being the true mother of her children were 1,000,000,000 to 1. The state prosecutors were suspicious. To eliminate any chance of lab error, the family was retested 3 times. Each time the result came back that the children weren't hers. Lydia had to find a way of explaining why her DNA didn't match with her children. But how? The suspicion spilled over to Lydia's estranged partner, Jamie Townsend. He too was interviewed by the prosecutor.
Okay, they came in and basically asked me what was going on. They said, Jamie, you know, you're 99.9% the kids, and the mother is not the mother. And I told them, I said, how could that be? I seen the kids born. And they said, you were there? And I go, yeah, I was there. They thought I was lying. They thought maybe I had kids by one of her sisters, or maybe I had kids somewhere else and that we had the kids and we're just getting a check. I think that's the way it was put to me. Basically that we were running a big fraud.
The family knew they were under suspicion. Even the medical evidence they had of the children's births didn't seem to count.
I mean, I've been doing this long enough, I kind of can recognize when someone's given birth in front of you, and there's not really much mistaking that. You know, the babies are footprinted at the time, and these cards are done right in the delivery room, and her file says you could prove that these are the babies that she had. And yet, apparently, even though that's an older technology that's been used very reliably in the justice system for years, but now we have the new kid on the block DNA, and all of a sudden they just didn't want to hear anything else.
Lydia, pregnant with her 3rd baby, faced more questions from the prosecutor's office.
3rd interrogation, the 3rd one, they threatened me with a lie detector test, which I said, give it to me. And then I got a summons in the mail saying you're going to court. I just lay in my bed and just shake, so hysterical, like I can't believe this. What is going on? I'm gonna lose my kids.
The court hearing was to legally establish the children's parentage. The pregnant Lydia became increasingly paranoid. She was terrified she would be charged with welfare fraud and lose her children.
Did it ever really feel as though you were going to lose the kids?
Yes. Every day. Every day it felt like it. Every day I'd get up, get them ready, take them to daycare. And every day it felt like that was going to be the last day I see them. I called every lawyer, local lawyer, that I could in the phone book, and I could not get one lawyer to take it. They said, well, obviously you're not the mother. There's no way I can win this case. I'm sorry. And I could not get one lawyer to get it. One lawyer would not take my case because there was no way. DNA, you cannot win against DNA because they say it's so foolproof. I mean, I feel like I was just the only one in the whole world trying to fight for my kids, and nobody in the world was listening to me. So I go to court. The prosecutor, first words out of his mouth that I remember is, we would like to put these children in separate guardianships. I had no lawyer. It was me against the state with DNA evidence.
The prosecutors wanted guardians to be appointed for each child to monitor their welfare while the investigations continued. The judge agreed, based on the existing evidence that Lydia was not the biological mother. For Lydia and Jamie, their worst fears had been confirmed.
Did I think the kids would be taken away at one point in time? I knew they would be taken away because they said that, you know, they were already setting it up for guardian parents to do that, to watch over the kids. And I just didn't, I didn't understand. It's like the kids were in danger and, you know, she's a good mom. You know, why would they be in any danger? I just felt like that we were treated as we were just running this big old scam.
Lydia was now heavily pregnant with her third child. The judge realized that this latest pregnancy could provide a vital clue to help unravel the mystery.
I said, actually, I'm doing this Monday, which was like 3 days away, to be induced. He ordered that somebody be there to witness my birth and to take blood from the baby and me right then and there, and we'll go from there.
As Lydia went into hospital, everyone's attention was focused on the birth. Would the results from the baby's DNA test show the same anomaly? That Lydia was not the mother? When she went into labor, the stakes could not have been higher.
The person that came in was a lab person, and she witnessed me give birth to the baby. She came right in, she took blood samples from the baby, and then she took swabs and stuff from me.
I felt that the courts, if he was hers, then we would be lying about the whole thing. So it was kind of like, okay, let's hope these tests come back negative for her, because there's got to be, I mean, that's our only hope.
The results, when they came back, were arresting. The new baby's DNA showed no match with Lydia. According to the test, she was not his mother. It was what the family wanted to hear. Lydia finally got a lawyer to help her. He knew she might have to face serious accusations in court.
The other question that had gone through the prosecutors' minds was whether or not she was involved in being a surrogate mother. I mean, if the egg and sperm had been implanted in her, then she wouldn't have any relation to this child. Is it possible that she's engaged in some sort of criminal activity, or maybe she's even abducted these children from someone? So I remember asking Lydia extensively, coming up with every explanation I could as to some sort of game being played, and she was just adamant about it. Taking her word for it, I said, well, she insists she's the mother of these children, so how are we going to find out why these tests were wrong?
It seemed that only science could provide the answers. By an extraordinary chance, it did, when the state prosecutors stumbled across a crucial new lead for the case.
The deputy prosecutor had found an article in the New England Journal of Medicine about this chimerism, and he didn't know whether this applied to the case. He wanted me to read it. And of course, I'm not a doctor. I read it. It was very densely written in medical terminology, but it sounded, for what little I could understand of it, sounded a lot like what we were dealing with.
For the first time, the question was raised, could Lydia be a chimera? Lydia and her attorney went back to court. The judge agreed to postpone the hearing while they tried to find out more. Chimeras have inside their bodies two completely different genetic identities, created from separate sets of DNA. One theory is that very early in the process of development, two individually fertilized eggs are fused. At this stage, the fertilized eggs are simple cell clusters, but each has its own distinct DNA. The process of fusion then incorporates the two sets of DNA into one embryo. Chimerism is an extremely rare condition where people have not just one, but two DNA profiles.
It was clearly stated that this is a very rare event, and to have someone look externally normal, be able to have children, made it a very rare consideration and a low likelihood consideration.
The doctors at the Beth Israel Hospital were alerted to another possible chimera case. After being approached by Lydia's lawyer, they agreed to investigate her DNA.
To date, this seems to be a very rare occurrence. We've now had the experience in a very short period of time to establish that we have one case, Karen, and then be referred within 2 years a second case.
They knew that blood testing was only the first step. They would need further tests on Lydia and her family. In particular, they needed tissue from Lydia, her skin and hair, and if possible, tissue from her internal organs. These tests were long and complex. It had taken the team years to finally come to a definite diagnosis in Karen's case. Would they get an answer in time for Lydia? Lydia had to go back to court to hear if she would finally be accepted as the true mother of her children. Time was running out. But the scientists on the trail of Lydia's chimerism had not finished their tests. What they could show was a definite DNA link between Lydia's children and Lydia's own mother. Just as with Karen Keegan, the DNA was in the larger family. This finding, taken together with medical records of Lydia's first 2 deliveries, was submitted to court as proof that Lydia really was the mother of her children. The evidence had an impact. The judge, who had initially questioned whether Lydia was the mother of the children, now admitted he had been wrong to doubt her. For over a year, Lydia had lived with the fear that her children would be taken away.
I just felt like when he said that, like my stomach just dropped, and I just felt like I came that close to losing my kids, and I just started bawling in court.
I really believe if little Jamie hadn't came back negative for her, that they would have took the kids.
I felt kind of relieved. I felt, okay, God made this right. You know, he gave me my children. I prayed every day. I mean, every minute of the day, it felt like I was praying. And to make this come out right.
The court concluded that Lydia was the real mother, and Jamie Townsend the father of the children, 16 months after the first DNA results had come in.